Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. The second part of the analysis of the council meeting from the 13th of December. We started last night and continued until very late, and we just ran out of time. I promised I'd come back. It's 5:30 here, 5:45 here. If the transmission goes down, my internet's still not working properly, so just bear with me, and it should come back on as long as I press the right buttons at my end. So hopefully that will be solved. The BT are coming back out on Thursday, so we'll see whether it's sorted between BT and OpenReach. And Denise, thank you very, very much for the super chat. Super chat from Denise Leaster, £1.99. This all goes towards our Christmas meals and our gathering. So I know many of you are joining me at the mill on tomorrow evening. So please, even if you can contribute to it, great. If you can't, doesn't matter. I'd love to see you there. We try and meet once a year at Christmas at the very least for our annual meal. It's about 6 o'clock to for 6:30 sort of time tomorrow evening, and I'd love to see as many of you there as possible. Come and share some food with us and see out the year, because it's been one hell of a year, hasn't it? It's been one hell of a year. We nearly had the council out of overall control if it hadn't been for the fallout in Failsworth between Brian Hoban and the Phipps and the other independents in the West. If that fallout hadn't happened and they'd each stuck to their agreements, in particular Brian Hoban, by not putting up a candidate in the West, then we would have got rid of, I reckon, 2 Labour Party councillors, and the council would have been in no overall control. But since then, we've clearly seen that this is a trait that is consistent, unfortunately, sadly, across many of the independents. Now, when I left you last night, I was clear. And thank you, Tony. I've got another super chat from Tony, so great. Thank you very, very much. I think I get 50% of this, so I get like £1, so brilliant. Or we get £1 towards the Christmas meals and whatnot. If you buy me a coffee, I actually get most of the money, but it's either way, it's fine. If you can support me, brilliant. If not, don't worry about it. End of the year, last transmission of the year. I'm going to pre-record, because of the internet problems, I'm going to try and pre-record a Christmas special. That'll probably go out on Boxing Day. It's mainly to do with the Stale Samosa Awards. Our first ever Stale Samosa Awards, the worst councillors of the year. So every year we're hoping to put out a special transmission for the worst councillors of the year. And don't worry, there are specific categories. And if you want to recommend a category, please type away. So one of the categories I've got is the scruffiest councillor of the year. So I'm going to give an award to the worst dressed, scruffiest councillor of the year, along with a shortlist, of course. So there'll be a 3rd place, a 2nd place, and a winner. I'll give an award to the most, inept councillor of the year, the lazy.
Can we please close the door so we can start the business?
Oh, he's starting. He wants to close the door so he can start the business. That's Dr. Chauhan. Now, let's get on with today's business. Dr. Chauhan is the mayor of Oldham Council. He closed the meeting down and they went into the bunker. I call it the bunker. Special room they've got set up where the public aren't allowed to enter. Although there was one problem with that, and I'll point that out to you as the meeting starts. Double standards, hypocrisy, as usual. As usual. Professional Victim Award. Yes, we can have that, Jack. The Professional Victim, the Crocodile Tear, yeah? Crocodile Tears Award will have to be another one, yeah? Keep them coming. Absolutely keep them coming. And we will do that. When I left you last night, I record, I back everything up, which is what I'm going to do. It takes me another hour or so. Most Betrayal Award. Yes, Julie. How about the Big Team Award? The one with the big team. When I went to, by the time I'd finished, it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning by the time I'd finished doing everything I need to do at my end. And I went to sleep. I woke up. And I made a series of phone calls. The Silence is Golden Award. Least contribution in a council meeting award. Oh. I woke up and I made a couple of phone calls. I phoned Monjur, who was the guy on his own with the hat in the middle, who didn't move with the Palestinian flag. I phoned Shah, and of course I phoned Peter Brown. Before I'd got to Shah, or after I'd got to Shah, around the same time, that snidey, duplicitous, and I don't know why some of you entertain him, and you do, some of you do entertain him, Muhammad Ali, had already been on to Shah telling him, ooh, Raja Mir's done a video about you, ooh, have you gone and seen it? Like some snivelling little slimeball kid in a school playground. Well, Muhammad Ali, I have Shah's phone number. I phoned him myself. And I told Shah to go and have a look at what I actually said. And Shah would be pleased because I've spoke to him, as would Peter Brown, because I am the sort of man I am. I don't do backstabbing, backdealing, whispering, shit stirring. It's not my style. If I got something to say to a single one of you, I'd say it to your face. I spoke at length to Peter Brown. I spoke at length to Shah. And the outcome, let's go to the outcome first. The outcome is both of them will sit together with me in the early new year and have a coffee together. Maybe nibble on a samosa. I will take both of them out for a coffee, lunch, dinner, and they can iron out their differences because I know both of them. So that is what will take place. Peter Brown also confirmed to me that when Shah went and sat next to him, the reason why Shah went and sat next to him was because Peter Brown invited him over to sit next to him. And Peter Brown confirmed that to me, and Shah also confirmed that to me, that the reason why he went over was because he had been invited to sit next to Peter Brown. Peter Brown also said to me that Shah didn't say anything to him, but he felt he nudged him, and that's what provoked him. Shah's clear he didn't nudge him, but if he did nudge him, it was accidental, but he will apologise, and he will apologise to his face. So that's them two sorted. Okay? See how easy that was? Now, my issue with you, me, our team, is when are we going to learn? When are we going to learn? Shah, Monjur, both very clear. No one sent either Shah or Monjur to that meeting to wind anyone up. They went to hold their own councillors to account for failing to represent them. I'm being clear with all of you from the beginning. Just as much as these councillors failed the white working class girls, which is why all of us are here, and they're all in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our children, betrayed, covered it up, they now are also failing to represent the Muslims. There is only one way in which we are going to take this town back, is by people from across all of our communities coming to see this Labour Party leadership for what it is. From McMahon, Abraham, Shah, Abdul Jabbar, Shahid Mushtaq, all of them, for what they are and who they are. And I will not tell any of you again. Because if I have to do it again, I will just pack up my bags and forget it. Stay out of it. Peter Brown was not intimidated by the flags, and he was wrong to say he was intimidated by the flags. He has an opinion that those flags shouldn't be there. That's a valid opinion. It's not one I necessarily agree with, but he has that valid opinion. Neither of those men did anything to intimidate Peter Brown. What had happened, though, to give it context, and Peter Brown talked about two young people and asking him which side they're on. And I think this is what went through Peter Brown's head, and in many ways was responsible for how he behaved. He was walking along the street earlier on that day, and he was approached by two Asian lads from, I think, from Oldham Academy North. One of the men these two young men approached crossed the road for fear. Peter Brown was approached by these two young men, and Peter's in his 70s. Let's be clear. And he's not well. He's got back in January for, he's had an operation. He's back in January in the hospital. And these two lads asked him if he would teach them how to fight. An old man walking up the street and two lads approach you and say, "Here lad, here mate, do you know how to fight? Will you teach us how to fight?" To me, that's a veiled threat. Wanting to beat up a pensioner. And then they pushed him by saying, "Which side are you on? Israel or Palestine?" And based on what the conversation I had with Peter, that was for him to try and say something that they would then use to beat him up. So he'd already been shook up earlier in the day that had nothing to do with the council meeting. Of course, Peter being Peter said he's on the side of peace. Which is what all of us are. We're on the side of peace. And if these Palestinian campaigners like Cllr Shah and the hundreds of others want to campaign for a ceasefire, if they want to hold the Muslim politicians accountable because they made promises that they're now reneging on, well, they have every right to. And I think all of us should support them in the right to hold politicians to account. So that is what happened actually in the lead up to the council meeting being suspended. The sad factor now is I think Peter Brown will now get one of those letters banning him from future council meetings. Which is, it's sad. Okay, we're going to carry on with the council meeting, but I'm going to fast forward a lot of it. There were a number of motions. I can't believe there's just under 100 of you joined me for a 5:30, 6 o'clock transmission. Wow. There were a number of motions. The Labour Party had 2 motions. The Lib Dems had 1 and the Conservatives had 1. I'll let you hear the motions. I won't waste your time with them. But the Labour Party had 2 motions. The first motion was they wanted to write to the government for the government to recognise how good they are. That's right. The Labour Party motion was that they would write to the government so the government knew how good they are. That's what AROOJ SHAH first wanted. The second motion was to do with putting in council run bins some sort of sanitary toilets in men's lavatories, in the toilets, in the cubicles, for men who are of a certain condition who wear nappies or something like that. And that was supported by 2. That was supported by both Dave Arnott seconded it. So well done to Dave for working with the Labour Party on something that's important. I don't think they'd second something you'd put forward, Dave, but well done to you. Decent man. And I'm glad that men of a certain age have the provision now, or will have the provision, in council-run toilets. Thank you, Lynn, for the super chat, and good evening, David. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow evening, David, and it doesn't clash with a Latics game. I heard you won at the weekend. I went to the football yesterday afternoon. It was the most dire 0-0, and I'm a Liverpool fan, by the way. It was the most dire 0-0 I've ever seen. I wish hadn't bothered, David, if I'm honest with you. So, let's bring it up. By all means, like. By all means, share. If the transmission goes down, bear with me. That's me, by the way.
Thank you. Item 10, notice of administration business. You have 30 minutes, but please remember you don't have to use all the 30 minutes for your speeches. Feel free to use. I mean, I got all the time tonight to be here. Delivering children's services in the community. Councillor Mushtaq.
Yep. I was going to say you'll be pleased it's me because I don't, again, talk a lot. That's why we are bringing the services that will support our families and create that loving environment in the home closer to the very people that need it the most. Mr. Mayor, raising a family is an amazing experience, but it isn't always easy. Isn't always easy. The role of government is to provide as much support as possible and create the conditions that help families thrive. Sadly, since 2010, every government has decided to target the very people it is in place to serve. Despite the government's target,
that is why we can look at
There we go.
Councillor Mushtaq.
yep.
Portfolio holders.
Oh, lovely. It's kicked me out, so that's what's gone on. Give me a second. Let me get my sound right.
I'm not suggesting that as a whole.
Hey, Gary, I'm just trying to sort my sound out and stuff like that. Just give me a second. The joys of so you can see me. You've not missed much. I've just explained, Gary, what actually went on between Peter Brown and Shah. So that's what I've done. And that the pair of them will be having a coffee and a samosa together in the new year. Good evening, Sheila.
As a wholesale, we agree all the reports. I'm just asking about item 9. Are we in agreement about item 9?
So here we go. He's brought
Portfolio holders. I'm not suggesting that as a wholesale we agree all the reports. I'm just asking about item 9. Are we in agreement about item 9? Thank you. Item 10, notice of administration business. You have 30 minutes, but please remember you don't have to use all the 30 minutes for your speeches. Feel free to use. I mean, I got all the time tonight to be here. Delivering children's services in the community. Councillor Mushtaq.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd be pleased it's me because I don't, again, talk a lot. Okay, yeah, I'll stay seated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We all know the life-changing impact Sure Start centres had on children and families. It was recognised by the Labour government of the time that our children are our future and that we all have a role in raising our children.
Did he just say that? Sorry, I've just paused that. He just said that, yeah? Our children are our future and we all have a responsibility in raising them. That shiny shoot, what, I don't know what hair dye he uses, but you know, did he just say that? This is the Labour-run Oldham Council that are neck deep in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children and have reputedly refused to support writing to the government asking that the government conduct a public inquiry. This is the same Cllr Shahid Mushtaq who's in charge of safeguarding, who refuses to tell us how many of our town's children were groomed and gang raped. He just said, our children are our future and we all have a responsibility. There's no shame in this lot, is there? There's just genuinely no shame amongst any of them.
That's why, at its peak in 2010, Sure Start received £1.8 billion a year. In this period, Sure Start reduced hospitalisations at age 5 by 7%, translating to around 2,800 fewer hospitalisations a year, with the longer-term benefits being seen in the prevention of 13,150 hospitalisations of 11 to 15-year-olds, an 8% reduction on pre-Sure Start hospitalisation rates.
So this is just nonsense, isn't it? He's just talking absolute nonsense and just some quotes, some figures that one of his policy officers have given him. Absolute nonsense.
The impact of Sure Start inside the family home was immense, Mr. Mayor. The place where, if a caring, considerate, committed government gets it right, the family home is the safest place, the most loving and caring environment for that child and the whole family. If, however, the government gets it wrong and fails to understand the impact of early help, fails to understand the role we all have to play in raising a child, then, Mr. Mayor, the family home can become a very lonely place, a place where the child is isolated and vulnerable and where the parents are lost and confused. That's why it's so important that we get this right at a local level, because we do understand that one individual building or even 7 family hubs, whilst impactful, cannot in isolation deliver what's needed and what this Labour administration wants to deliver for our children and families. That's why we are including partners across the borough, including schools, community groups, libraries, place-based integration that my colleague Councillor Peter Dean is leading on, and other vital assets in the heart of every community in Oldham. That's why we are bringing the services that will support our families and create that loving environment in the home closer to the very people that need it the most. Mr. Mayor, raising a family is an amazing experience, but it isn't always easy. Isn't always easy. The role of government is to provide as much support as possible and create the conditions that help families thrive. Sadly, since 2010, every government has decided to target the very people.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. He's blaming the Conservative government. Listen, Mushtaq. The council did a deal with your brother to sell him some land. Listen, Mushtaq. Our children were groomed and gang raped under your council's watch, the Labour Party watch, and you're involved in the cover-up and repeatedly voting to block calls for a government inquiry. Just look at him. Grandstanding and now going on about government, and that's exactly the point. Some homes will never be safe, and sorry, having a centre you can go to 1 morning a week or 2 mornings a week isn't going to make the difference. He is absolutely clueless, Amanda. He is absolutely clueless, which is why he's going blah, 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 blah. I am reading from the script. 2,000 this happened and 5,000 that happened, and is my hair, can you see the grey in my hair? Is my hair dye looking good? I wonder if he dyes it before he comes into a council meeting. And gets his beard perfect, you know, that whatever. You know, must go to a barber to get it like that. He can't even read his script. Deputy Leader of Oldham Council here. Cllr Sahid Mushtaq. Grandstanding.
It is in place to serve. Despite the government's targeting of families, this Labour administration is working innovatively to provide all the support we can and work with amazing partners across the borough.
Working innovatively. Well, one, he can't say the word. 2, how is it working innovatively, Mushtaq? Just because you've seen something for the first time doesn't mean it's the first time it's been done, you pillock. Every time he's at a council meeting, you'll see him, he'll stand up and he looks like, you know, oh, someone's made a cup of tea. Isn't that profound? They've boiled a kettle. They've used an electric kettle. Wow. This is the deputy leader of your council, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most senior politicians in Oldham. Rewarded, of course, by AROOJ SHAH, because he remained loyal to AROOJ SHAH. AROOJ! Are you okay, AROOJ? Are you okay? Are they picking on you, AROOJ? While she was doing her crocodile tears when her unlocked car was blown up. Tell me, Shahid Mushtaq, have you asked her if she left her car unlocked? AROOJ!
To ensure that today's children are best placed to do the best they can for tomorrow's children. As the motion states, Mr. Mayor,
today's children are the best placed to do the best they can for tomorrow's children. Oh, clap, clap, clap. What a strap line. Oh, I'm so proud of that. Today's children are best placed to do the best for tomorrow's children.
the consultation is now live. I'd encourage colleagues in the chamber to work with and encourage the communities they represent to complete the survey to ensure that we deliver what the people want, the way they want it delivered. Please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mushtaq. Councillor Chadderton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and you will be pleased that I will be speaking a lot shorter. As Councillor Arnott pointed out at the last council meeting, I am one of the younger members of the council, and I know how lucky I was to grow up at a time when Sure Start was a universal offer to every family.
Oh, shut up. Your dad's a councillor and you work for Jim McMahon. Just shut up. You're a Labour Party stooge on the gravy train, and boy, look at the size of you. Aren't you been on the gravy? Aren't you been on the gravy, lad?
Across the country. Parents like mine took advantage of early years provision, helping their children reach milestones prior to starting school. I think I could safely say that I owe all my successes to the start in life I was given by the last Labour government. And I think
What was the start in life you were given? Double school dinners?
in the room today will agree that the actions taken to support the development of children and reduce child poverty were welcome and a great success. Having visited...
He can't even read without getting out of breath. He's panting from reading out a script. This out of shape joke is panting, trying to catch his breath from reading a script. Someone put him on a bicycle for one of those bicycle lane things. Someone put him on a bicycle. Help him get in shape. There should be a council scheme, and I'm serious. There should be a council scheme for councillors to help them get in shape. They should have discount rates at Oldham Community Leisure, and I would love to see Josh Charters and some of the others get in shape. He needs an oxygen mask. Do you think he goes out there, out delivering leaflets, Gary? And I shouldn't laugh, but I think they need a defibrillator in the council chamber to assist councillors who are giving speeches. Seriously, on a serious note, on a very, very serious note, Councillor Josh Charters, you're a young man. You should not be in this bad physical shape. Get yourself fit, lad. You're a leader of this town. You've got to lead by example. You've got to lead by example. Your physical shape is in no condition whatsoever.
A number of the children's centres across the borough, alongside Councillor Mushtaq, have been hit with sort of a stark reminder at every single site. The impact of cuts from across different governments to these services has left communities with buildings that are unable to be used except for the most basic of services, because in 2011 the coalition government removed ring fencing for Sure Start. So over the last 13 years of austerity that we've faced, children in Oldham have suffered through no fault of their own. Our own council youth services and children's services have performed miracles with what funding remained from cuts to their services. And I want to pay tribute to every single member of staff, past and present, who's worked in our children's centres and supported families through difficult times. Be that someone running Stay and Play in Shoulder, health visitors working in Coldhurst, or the midwife supporting mums to be in HAZEL GLOSTER. The Family Hubs model outlined in the motion allows the council to be much more agile, whilst providing services our families need, but instead of using these dedicated buildings that aren't used by everyone, we can put these services to where people actually are. The hub model gives our staff a base to work from and a physical location for families to come to if they want to, but it doesn't confine these services to these specific buildings. It means we can put these services in our community assets, in with our churches, our libraries, and all these place-based integration areas.
Oh, bugger. Let me, that's me pressing the pause button in the wrong place. Right, I want to pull him up on that. What they're actually saying is these family integration centre hubs, these hubs, that they can go anywhere. Unlike Councillors Mushtaq and Josh Charters, I was part of the team of professionals that helped introduce Sure Start into this town and others. Bespoke provision, specially set out to rooms, accommodation, the complements of services, all of that cannot be done from a church hall or something random here or something random there and a spare bit there. You need bespoke provision to do it properly. Physical and agile definitely wasn't his best move, was it? And Tony, no worries. I will see you tomorrow, Tony, at the meal. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So, there's no evaluation that these family hub model that they've created is actually the right model. It's actually a cost-cutting exercise where the council is cutting costs and prioritising alternative provision over spending your money elsewhere. Now, I agree. Children should be supported. I'm an advocate of Sure Start centres. Have been. Forever. I spent a decade of my life working for the Children's Society. Worked with some of the most vulnerable children in society. No. Councillor Charters. Your council, AROOJ SHAH and her predecessors, decided to pay the likes of Jenny Harvey and her communications team the best part of what, £500,000, £1 million a year? Rather than spend it on vital services. The Labour Party run council decided they would rather spend £1 million a year, or thereabouts, on talking about how good a job they're doing, rather than funding the services that our communities need. And this is the case across the board. And these agile centres Have a look at where they're best placed. Once again, you will see some communities are having services at the expense of other communities who are not having or receiving their fair due. And unfortunately, neither big team, councillors Mark Mintz, Maggie Hurley, had anything to say about their fair share and making sure they got their fair share. Nothing. Nothing. My bet is they've not even read the paperwork. They've not even read the paperwork. They could have put an amendment in. As an independent councillor, I would have put an amendment in. As an independent team, I would have put an amendment in. Did they do anything? Did they bugger? Did they bugger?
In with our churches, our libraries, and all these place-based integration areas that Councillor Mushtaq touched on. I think this motion actually does show how Oldham Council is delivering for people in Oldham, and I think it shows that we need more from the government to deliver more. Thank you, and I'm seconding the motion.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this motion? I have Councillor Islam and then Councillor Bishop.
And Holly Harrison at the back, that the Chief Executive wants to make
Mr.
sure
Mayor,
that she gets.
I'm very much in support of this motion, recognising that in recent times, the way families access services has changed. We have observed a decline in the usage of our children's centres, primarily due to limited offerings available at each site, resulting from the withdrawal of the Tory government's Sure Start funding nationwide. Additionally, some of our children's centres are housed in ageing buildings, requiring significant investment to meet...
Okay, listen. Councillor Nazrul Islam, right? Appeared in the newspapers for a get-rich-quick scheme, money growing on trees, with companies that weren't registered in the way they were supposed to be registered. That's who he is. Next to Barrelgate, Bashforth. Apparently he wanted to speak. He doesn't want to speak. He wants to read out a pre-prepared speech that one of his other Labour Party officers, council officers, have done prepared for him. He's not speaking in response with his hand up. He wants to read out a speech. And he's reading out a speech.
Standards. I feel the plan to renovate 6 of our existing children's centres, which will then transition into family hubs, seems exciting. And any decision taken will be after a full consultation with residents. These hubs will provide an array of services such as health clinics, ante and postnatal care, play and stay sessions, and valuable parenting support for families. Moreover, there is a commitment to extend family services beyond the confines of traditional buildings, focusing on place and community. To achieve this goal, we will optimize our existing civic buildings, including libraries, leisure centres, town halls, and outdoor spaces to create accessible hubs for families. By spreading our services across multiple locations, it will increase access points for families, ensuring that support is readily available where it is needed the most. The primary focus should not be in the bricks and mortar of buildings, but in fostering a sense of belonging within our community. It is
Again, this is nonsense. The primary focus should not be in bricks and mortar. Without the right bricks and mortar, you can't deliver the right sort of services. Whoever has come up with this nonsense needs to be sacked. And apparently there's some sort of consultation going on, and they've got 6 of these centres that they want to do up. Guess where the 6 are? Guess where the 6 are?
important that we enhance digital offerings.
Sorry, I've had enough of him. Let's see what Helen Bishop has to say.
Mr Mayor. It's well documented that Sure Start Children's Centres have great success in delivering tangible, positive change into the heart of our community.
Look, once again, Helen Bishop, always got plenty to say on social media, hasn't got anything to say when it comes to this because she has to read off a script. a pre-prepared statement of a script.
And it is commendable that Oldham continue operating them in the face of such brutal cuts to public services. However, I am concerned about the geographical location of the family hubs. The 5 that have been selected...
Okay, so she's concerned. So the Lib Dems are playing the opposition game. So she's reading out a pre-prepared script written by Howard or someone, and she's concerned about the location of the hubs. Finally, we're getting somewhere. Why did Big Team Hurley, you can see behind, not raise an amendment? Why did Big Team Hurley and Mark Mintz not say anything? Remember, Mark Mintz and Big Team Hurley were elected off the back of a promise to fight the way in which resources are centralised into the inner areas, the inner wards, and the rest of the town. Their communities do not get their fair share. How can a Royton councillor sit there and not say anything? How can a Royton councillor not put forward an amendment to make sure that the people of Royton are protected and they get their fair share? How can Big Team Hurley stay quiet on this? How can Mark Mintz stay quiet on this? What happened, lads? John Hughes have a late night poker night and didn't get round to reading the motions properly? Where is your amendment? You're disgusting. You shouldn't be taking that £10,000 each. You've manipulated and exploited the people who voted for you. Where are you standing up for them? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. And the Lib Dems are talking about it. The Lib Dems are objecting and saying 5 of the 6 locations. Here, carry on, listen to it. They stood for this and a bit of ego. That's what they stood for. Shame on her, Amanda. Absolutely shame on her.
So far are all located in one half of the borough, with a very noticeable swathe being left completely untouched. Upwards of 30,000 people live across the 3 Saddleworth wards, and yet there appears to be no provision planned for it. 2 of the 5 family hubs currently identified, Spring Meadows and Beaver, are only a mile apart. And yet it is over 5 miles from Greenfield to the nearest proposed family hub. Can the Cabinet member please confirm that this will be addressed when deciding where to position family hubs 6 and 7 to ensure that those communities not centrally located, such as Saddleworth, Failsworth and Holts, are not left isolated and without access to these vital services, some of which...
Wow, Failsworth! Failsworth has been excluded from their list. We've got 4 Failsworth councillors in there. Nothing. Holts, white working class in Alexandra ward. Now that the white Labour Party councillor no longer exists at the next election, forget it. Holts, forget it. And you lot don't turn out to vote enough anyway. Holts Estate on its own could win an election in Alexander.
Have already been withdrawn. Furthermore, there seems to be confusion surrounding the ownership and management of current children's centre and centres and the future family hubs, with services currently running from them being uncertain of their position. I would like to seek assurances that service providers, staff and other stakeholders will be consulted with and kept totally up to date with future plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So no one even knows who really runs them. That's what she's saying. They don't even know who really runs them.
Councillor Holly Harrison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am in support of this motion as it is of a firm belief that early childhood interventions
I can't be
are
arsed
vital.
with her. Can't stand her. She's just reading some nonsense.
Assets such as Oldham Library and potentially other libraries as well, and the place-based working. It's going to bring the services, and it is about the services rather than physical assets.
He's talking nonsense.
And I must commend them both. Both Councillor Shah and Councillor Sykes responded to me within a day, and it was made clear to me that the Labour group were thinking of putting this down as a motion. Will I be interested in seconding it? Of course I was, very pleased to do so. Prostate cancer is extremely common, 30,000.
Dave Arnott, happy to support, working collaboratively. Well done to him on the second motion. Yeah. I'm not going to bother. Sorry, Dave. I'm fast forwarding it.
Mark has previously mentioned for OMBC. Indeed, it has been a core thread in several of our opposition budget proposals. However, the only time we have seen realistic action was during the pandemic, when suddenly it was a good idea with schemes being implemented, particularly around Saddleworth. However, across the broad spectrum of Oldham Borough, we still see areas and communities that are crying out for schemes, but alas.
So this is to do with the 20 is plenty. They want a 20-mile-an-hour scheme introduced. So that's what the Lib Dems wanted. It was, you know, tweaked and all the rest of it. Sorry, I'm not going to bother with that.
Amendment lost.
So the amendment... Sorry, I'll just bring this back up. Give me 1 second. Well, then you should speak to your councillors, shouldn't you, Susan? You should speak to your councillors as to why you get nothing in Failsworth, because they sat in that meeting, 4 of them, and didn't say a word. And I would wager they didn't say a word because they never read the paper. That's what I'd wager. They didn't say a word because they didn't read the paper. And I'd wager the same for the independent group, which includes a Failsworth councillor. Does it not, Lynn? There are 3 councillors in the independent group, and it includes a Labour Party councillor.
I'm going to move on to Amendment 2. Humble request, if you could just be as brief as possible.
There's Max Woodfinder. Is that a bow tie he's got on? I can't tell. Yeah. And his sidekick, Luke Lancaster. Here we go. That's the fit motion. Let's have the fit motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor move and Councillor Hinder to second the motion.
We're all very aware, unfortunately, of CSE and grooming in the borough, which previously has been acknowledged by the leader. And this motion is being brought forward with the intentions to empower the young people of our borough as a result of a discussion that we had at the CSE steering group meeting. We want this motion to give the tools to the young people to recognise the signs of grooming in CSE. And as we all know, knowledge is power, and we want to embed a culture within our young people to look out for each other and know where to turn should they see these signs. We have the multi-agency safeguarding hub, and this is the end result after the exploitation has already taken place with the victim, and we want to approach our youth before MASH are even needed. We want this motion to give our children this grounding and understanding of what is unacceptable. grooming doesn't start in a horrible way. It starts with some of these young people thinking that they're in loving relationships, and we believe this is the right age group to be targeting them to educate on what are healthy boundaries and what they should be aware of. And we hope you can support the motion.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was nibbled. I went and found a packet of hula hoops for my tea. Okay, listen. I don't want to pick on her, but when you present a motion, you got to give it some gusto. You've got to give it some passion, not, oh, I hope you support the motion. Are we going to do this and we're going to give that? No, you need to give it a bit more. You need to give it a bit more. You honestly need to give it a bit more. So it's her motion. And now it's seconded by Councillor Hindle, who very rarely says anything. So this is a rare treat for you.
Councillor Hindle to second.
Thank you. I'm seconding this motion first and foremost because I'm a father before I'm a councillor. And as a parent, you'd like to think your children are educated on this subject, being able to recognise when they're under threat. This motion is a step forward to achieve that. So I urge you to vote with your head and your heart and not as your party instructs you to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I don't have a time to take speakers.
Okay. The problem there, when you talk about presenting a motion, you need to give it more context. You need to add some more narrative. It's like giving a child a task to do something and they come back with 2 sentences, and you'll know by the 2 sentences it should have been 2 sides of A4. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They're absolutely clueless and have no idea what they're doing. Because that's neither how you present a motion, nor is that how you second a motion. No idea. No idea what they're doing. But they presented the motion and they seconded the motion. Remember, the context of this was in the morning of this council meeting. In the morning of this council meeting, I had put out an emergency transmission, clearly evidencing how the Labour Party amendment was unconstitutional. Hindle, Hoban and Lucia Ray knew about it. I'm 100% certain they knew about it. So this was their chance to give it to the Labour Party. This is what happened.
To move to amendment, you don't have time to speak on amendment. You can just formally move and second it. Councillor Mushtaq.
So I just want
about 30 seconds.
Well, I'm moving it. The amendment. The essence of the amendment is exactly the same. It's just to highlight that we've changed words like commit to.
Sorry, we know. Sorry, I need to stop eating my crisps, Paulie, is what I need to do. And put it on mute. I put it on mute whilst I'm nibbling on my crisps. We know Mushtaq is not telling the truth. He's saying the essence of the amendment is exactly the same. And all they've done is change the odd word. That's not the case. The essence is not exactly the same because they've completely deleted one of the recommendations of the motions, which is to do with minutes of the steering group. Minutes of the steering group. Minutes of the steering group being shared with members of the public. And they've deleted that. So the essence of the motion is not the same, and Mushtaq is at best misleading people, or at worst outright lying. A barefaced lie. That's what it is. It is a barefaced lie. And they're all sat there. They're all sat there not saying anything. Hoban sat there taking it. So Mushtaq and Morn Ali. And it's not lost on me that the two Muslim councillors, one in charge of safeguarding, the other one in charge of children, is amending a motion to keep hidden from parents. To keep hidden from parents information on the grooming and gang rape of children in this town. Because that's what the amendment is to keep hidden from parents. It is scary, and you should be scared, Julie. Because I'm scared. As a father of a child in this town, I'm scared. Bear in mind, Shabir Daddy Ahmed was a member of the Labour Party and an employee of the council. Bear in mind, Rod Blythe was a 22-year time-served councillor with access to hundreds, thousands of children, convicted child sex offender that this council kept hidden. Bear all of that in mind. Bear in mind that the Newsom report confirmed that Oldham Council had been given taxi licences, knowing that these taxi drivers had sexually assaulted young women, girls. And now they're amending a motion to take out the element that says minutes of meetings will be shared with the public. And with other councillors. Not just members of the public, other councillors. This is a standards complaint. It should be a standards complaint.
To continue to, because like Councillor Rhea said, knowledge is power, and she should know, because she sits on the cross-party steering group, the amount of work that's going on, and the fact that 3,000 children have been trained, all staff in schools, etc., have been trained. So it's work that we will continue to do, rather than start the work, because it's already happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ali, do you want to formally second it?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
I'd like to. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to formally second it, and just to say that, you know, we are at present, we do work together with the schools, both the primary and secondary, in partnership with Greater Manchester Police through several forums. You know, we have come up with strategies that can raise awareness on the signs of exploitation and grooming. So thank you.
Councillor Rhea, do you wish to reply?
Yes, please. I'd just like to ask Councillor Mushtaq, where the YAV used the word continue, if they could explain what work it is that's been doing, because I'm not aware of anything that is specifically targeting CSE and grooming and awareness around that and the signs of it. So where is this work continuing?
Does Councillor Mushtaq wish to reply yet?
Yeah, like I said, I'm seconding the cross-party steering group meeting. I wasn't in those meetings, but from reading the report, the 4 meetings that have taken place, it's clear that the work is going on. And like I said, 3,000 students. I spoke about the White Ribbon event that took place. There's lots of work going on. There's more to do, don't get me wrong, but she should know, because she sits on that steering group. I don't even sit on it. I read the report and know that work is going on.
It needs to be more specific. It's not around grooming.
Well, yeah. It is around grooming, but actually it needs to. So the White Ribbon stuff, for example, talks about relationships, talks about coercion, talks about control. So that's where
Bugger. Sorry. My crisp packet is now empty. If that's any help. He's been caught out. And I'll tell you what's gone on. The training the council have implemented is not to do with what we've exposed. What we've exposed is the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of working-class white girls by predominantly Pakistani, occasionally Bangladeshi, only almost exclusively Muslim men. That is the primary form of grooming and gang rape that's took place in this town. The training does not cover that. It's hidden away about relationship training. They won't touch the racial dynamic. They won't touch the religious dynamic. And once again, political correctness and the desire to maintain community relations is putting our town's children at risk. And once again, these actions are implemented by a Labour Party run administration and its team of council officers. That's what is taking place. So the 3,000, David, in which schools? Forget it, mate. They're just bullshitting. And whatever the training is, it's not the appropriate training. And I genuinely believe this. I believe this, Julie. I believe there's something in there that they don't want their mates to go to prison. And when I mean their mates, I don't mean the groomers on their own, or those who gang raped children, or paid some of these groomers to rape children above takeaways and taxi ranks. I believe it's the politicians and the council officers as well. And it's something I've promised. Justice. We will get justice. Get me in and we will get justice. We'll force a public inquiry. The politicians involved will go to prison. The council officers involved will go to prison. So that's what Lucia's arguing over. And it's right she's arguing over that. But yes, exactly like Gerard Jones. Exactly like Gerard Jones, Gary. So, Lucia knows, Hoban knows, Hindle knows. They've not said anything about how to strike this motion out, because it could be struck out like that if they'd argued it. But no. And they've done that on purpose because they don't want to acknowledge what I did earlier in that day. So their egos won't take it. They won't allow their egos to take it. And watch, this is what happens. They're moving to the vote. Look, you can see for yourself.
These things begin, and I think by focusing on just grooming, you're actually detracting from the root cause of the problem.
Thank you very much. I will have to move to...
Focusing on grooming, you're distracting from the root cause of the problem. What is the root cause of the problem, you prick? What is it? What is the root cause of children getting gang raped? Sorry, I'm angry. I am now fuming. I forgot he said that. What on earth is the root cause of grooming? I'll tell you what the root cause of grooming and gang rape of white working class girls by predominantly Pakistani men is, mate. It's the contempt in which these men hold white working class girls and think they can do whatever they want to them. That's what I think is the root cause. Tell me what you think is the root cause, Mushtaq. Are you going to blame the children and say somehow the children are somehow responsible for being raped? Is that what the root cause is? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying to me. The root cause is that the children aren't educated. So it's the children's fault. How dare this man even suggest that? And I'm clear from what I've just heard him say. He believes the root cause of grooming, isn't tackling the perpetrators, isn't working in the communities that the perpetrators come from to say we cannot treat children like this even though they're from a different demographic. No, that's not the root cause. Stopping a certain demographic of men from thinking it's okay to rape white working class children isn't the root cause. The root cause is that the children don't understand what's going on. What an absolute prick. What an absolute... They're blaming the children. The Pakistani deputy leader of Oldham Council is blaming the children. The root cause is the lack of education that the children have. Did Mark Ince say anything? Did Brian Hoban say anything? Did Maggie Hurley say anything? Were they even listening? Get me elected and I'll get these people put in prison. It's as simple as that. Get me elected and I'll see that these people are put in prison. And at the very least, people like Mushtaq removed from power. Because you cannot say that. Remember earlier in the meeting? Someone objected something about the Palestinian flag and anti-Semitism, and of course he was wrong, but it's by the by. And how AROOJ SHAH jumped up to the defence. How Cameron Gafford jumped up to the defence. Well, I'm sorry, people. You've elected white politicians. So we know this isn't about race, because I'm more of your advocate than those pricks. Maggie Hurley's white. Mark Ince is white. Brian Hoban is white. Hindle's white. Lucia Ray's white. And I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the other one's name. From Failsworth. She's white. Why aren't they standing up for white children? Sandra Ball, thank you. Why aren't they saying anything? Was the councillor is clearly suggesting that the root cause is the children. The root cause is the children. I'm not a councillor. If I was a councillor, I would be on my... I'd be standing up. I'd be on that bloody table. Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Is Councillor Mushtaq, the Deputy Leader of Oldham Council and the Safeguarding Lead, suggesting that children are the root cause of gang rape? Is that what he is suggesting? The lack of education of children is the root cause. Sorry, I just need to compose myself. Just give me a moment, please. I'm going to get a drink. I do need to compose myself. And we'll carry on. Very good evening to those of you who are joining us late. We have just been going through the second part of the council meeting, and we've got to the point where Cllr Shahid Mushtaq, Deputy Leader of Oldham Council and Safeguarding Lead, appears to suggest that the root cause of grooming is the failure of children to understand. The root cause, not the perpetrators doing the raping or the grooming or the traffic of children, but somehow the root cause is the children. Sadly, the independents that we got over the line and elected sat there and did not say a word. Maybe it was lost on them. Maybe I need to be a bit fairer. Maybe it was lost on them and they didn't hear, they didn't understand. No. For those of you who are also joining us, please consider buying me a coffee. This is the last of our ever live Sunday night Recusant 9 transmissions that are free to air. Now it's on a Monday. It's the second part because that's how much time and effort this work takes. But this is the last of them. I went free to air last year completely on everything. And it's the reason why was to get Maggie Hurley, Mark Ince and some of the others, Sandra Balls, all of them over the line. At the time, they knew that without my help, it was not possible for them to win. So I sacrificed myself. I got arrested. I nearly got imprisoned. And when I went free to air, the consequence was I lost a lot of my income. There was a promise from these councillors that they would support me once elected. They've reneged on all their promises, and I am now in a position where it is no longer sustainable. So if you find value, please consider subscribing to the Ghost channel. I know I'm being mocked and being laughed at, but it doesn't matter. I know the value I bring. I'm sure all of you do. There's 147 of you on a Monday night watching me go through the analysis of a council meeting. Let's see what happens next.
The vote. Does Councillor agree the amendment? Those in favour?
Mr. Mayor, need a...
Okay. You can see, I've paused it there. I paused it there. The mayor's forcing the vote through and they're putting their hands up. The mayor's forcing the vote through, not forcing the vote through. The mayor's calling the vote, as he is meant to. They're about to vote. And it's Councillor Howard Sykes, the leader of the opposition, who sticks his hand up to object. Not Brian Hoban, not Hindle, not Lucia Ray, not Maggie Hurley, not Mark Ince. It's a Lib Dem councillor who sticks his hand up.
Clarification on the amendment that's before us before you take the vote, please.
Go on.
In the amendment, the very last bullet point in the motion is not deleted, but then isn't included in the motion as amended. So because it's not deleted, I'm assuming the last bullet point in the motion is included and is not part of the amendment. And I'm just checked, it's the same. That's what was circulated to us on the 12th of December by Constitutional Services after we heard. So the last bullet point of the motion has not been deleted in the amendment, yet as seems to be omitted in the motion as amended. And that can't be right. So if it's not being deleted, the last bullet point, and I can understand why it's just been overlooked, but should be included in the motion, whether the amendment gets passed or not.
Can I make a point of explanation there?
Yeah.
So, Councillor Sykes is right, it was an oversight, and I believe...
Okay. Councillor Sykes has displayed it because Josh Charters is now saying it's an oversight. So that means Josh Charters. It leads me to believe that it's Josh Charters who wrote the motion. Remember, this is a guy who's funded by Jim McMahon, works in his office. So maybe he does a bit of moonlighting for the council as well whilst he's being paid. I don't know. You'll have to ask him. as in for the Labour Party group in writing their motions. And what Josh Charters is clearly saying there is that it was an oversight. Yeah, it was a mistake. Howard Sykes has just lured him into a trap. He's actually done what I wouldn't. I would have gone for him. But Howard Sykes is a politician. I'm not. So he said, of course it must be a mistake, mustn't it? And Josh Charters fell straight into said, yes, it's a mistake. It should be there. Josh Charters has fallen for it, hook, line and sinker, because he's inept, inexperienced, and all of those things. So he's fallen for it straight away. Yes, it was an oversight. It should be there. So that is the starting position, the second position of the Labour Party. The starting position was the claim that all they've done is improve the language and tidied it up. Now the second position is, oh yeah, we've missed this out, but it was an honest error. And it doesn't matter, it's there. We're going to vote on it as though it's there. That's what he's saying. Josh Charters is saying we're going to vote on it as though it's there.
We are okay with leaving that amendment, part of the amendment in, because that is something we're doing at this meeting today, is delivering the minutes of that steering group. Is that correct?
Okay, I think it explains everything.
Mr. Mayor. Sorry, can I finish mine, please?
Oh, sorry, go on, Howard.
I'm happy to other. So the last bullet point, the minutes of the steering committee quarterly reports and publicising them, stands in the motion and is not part of this amendment, because it's not in the amendment to delete it, therefore it must still stand. I am right, aren't I? So if you don't want it in it, because you've not failed to put it in your amendment, you're going to have to vote against the motion, whether it's amended or not.
They've all gone quiet now, yeah. You can see Elaine Taylor's gone running over. Elaine Taylor's gone running over.
That's what we're voting on.
AROOJ Shah's looking confused, not happy at all. You can see her. You look at AROOJ Shah, not happy at all.
So,
Josh Charters
what we will be
over.
voting on is amended motion as is printed. So it's for members to decide whether they want to vote or not. But I think what we're voting on is the amended motion as is printed.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just
sorry, can I it makes sense. Sorry, the motion as printed is in the green book. The amendment isn't, but the amendment doesn't delete that paragraph. And I'm just, the last bullet.
Mr. Mayor.
So I'm just checking, is that correct before we vote on this amendment?
After checking with the group, we're Labour Party happy to keep that bullet point in our amendment. As stated in the green book, that's last bullet point.
So, do you want to read that the last bullet point, and if the council agrees to include, we will include that.
You can't do this.
That last
The proceeding is written, Mr. Mayor. We'll vote as it is written in the amendment.
So Elaine Taylor has not been invited by the mayor to speak. You can hear him repeatedly telling people they're not allowed to speak unless he invites them to speak. Elaine Taylor, AROOJ Shah's right-hand woman, is saying, no, it's as it's written. We're voting as it's written, which means the members of the public are prevented from seeing the minutes of the CSE steering group. They hide the minutes from us. So they've finally been exposed. Now what the problem now is, what they want to vote on is unconstitutional because they've not altered the original motion in the way it should have been done. So it's unconstitutional and it shouldn't be allowed to be voted on because it's not gone through due process, as I explained before this meeting. So Councillor Howard Sykes and his team clearly picked up on it. Hoban, I believe, did, but has refused to say anything because it came from me. And now he's desperately trying to play catch-up.
Mr. Mayor, there's a point of order. Mr. Mayor, if this amendment isn't correct, or it's correct. We can't have this ad hoc discussion now. It should either be put correctly or it shouldn't have been. And either the amendment's withdrawn and they vote against it, or we push forward with the motion as unamended, because this is unconstitutional what's going on.
Which bit is unconstitutional, councillor?
Mr. Mayor, you can't be having this ad hoc discussion.
I tell you what is unconstitutional. You standing up without invitation to speak, that's unconstitutional.
I raised the point of...
So he's, Dr. Chauhan is now defending the Labour Party position. You can see him, Dr. Chauhan, desperately coming to the aid of his Labour Party colleagues. I'll tell you what is unconstitutional, Lewis Quick, Councillor Quick. You standing up without authority. That is unconstitutional. No, mate. What is unconstitutional is an amended motion that's been put forward that does not meet the criteria in which amendments are made. That is what is unconstitutional. This is a corrupt, out-of-control council. 5 years later is just as corrupt and even more out of control than ever before. And you're right, Sue. Every meeting I'm going slightly crazy. They've amended something in the wrong way. It shouldn't even be voted on, the amendment. And you saw Dr. Chauhan's true colours there. The mask slipped. The mask slipped. Point of order, he was right. He's right to stand up when he speaks, because that's what councillors do. And Councillor Quigg should put a standards complaint in against Dr. Chauhan as the mayor. He should put a complaint in against Dr. Chauhan for harassment and racially charged bullying. Or politically charged bullying. That was not the actions of a neutral mayor, Lynn. Thank you, Sue, for the super chat. Thank you very, very much. Let me continue with this chaos.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, if we can...
AROOJ SHAH is now interrupting the mayor. The mayor's allowing that. Did the mayor ask AROOJ SHAH to speak? Did AROOJ SHAH stick her hand up? No.
Administration, can you clarify which bit you are including and which are not?
Mr. Mayor, can we vote as printed in the Green Book? Thank you.
Okay. So can you vote as printed in Green Book?
Our amendment, vote as printed in the Green Book.
It's not in the... This is crazy.
Here, ready? Ready? That was the leader of Oldham Council, AROOJ SHAH, saying, can we vote as printed in the Green Book? Our amendment as printed in the Green Book. You heard her say that. Guess what? Amendments aren't printed in the Green Book. The motions are printed in the Green Book and the amendments are distributed afterwards. She's lying. She's misleading you. She's deceiving you. She knows amendments aren't printed in the Green Book. Tyrant Shah at her best. Indeed, Tyrant Shah at her best. It is shocking, Julie, because what they are at the root of this is their desire to hide minutes of meetings to do with the child sexual exploitation in this town. That's what they're doing. They're hiding the minutes of meetings to do with CSE in this town. That's what AROOJ SHAH's doing. That's what Elaine Taylor's doing. That's what Josh Charter's doing. And Dr. Chauhan, in charge of this meeting, is facilitating this. He's told Lewis Quick to sit down and saying it is unconstitutional. You cannot vote on something where the paperwork does not match the process. You can't. The Labour Party amendment should have had that last point with a red line through it. That's what it should have. And it doesn't, and therefore it's not admissible. So Chowan's come out, it gets worse. Watch Harry Caffrell come out.
Mr Mayor, if this was a smaller party, you'd be throwing this amendment out, correct? And the Labour administration got enough people to put things right.
Amendment is being circulated. Sorry, one second, please.
What you're saying is that the amendment which was circulated to all the members around the chamber is the amendment that we're voting on the council to vote upon.
Absolutely, it's that simple. So the amendment that's been posted and that is in front of everybody, the amendment that is printed in front of everybody for the last and final time is what we're voting on. That is not...
But you can't vote on something that has amended a document with bits of the original document missing, AROOJ SHAH, you thick piece of... You're a scumbag, Shah. You're an absolute scumbag. You need to understand, oh, you're stupid. No, we're not stupid. Members of the public are not stupid, Shah. You're an utter disgrace. You cannot vote on an amendment that omits part of the original motion. And no matter how much ranting you do, or trying to portray that the rest of the councillors from the opposition parties are stupid, no, it's you who's taking us for fools. Who blew up your car, AROOJ SHAH? Why did you leave it unlocked? Why did he leave it parked in a place other than outside your front door of your house? Why won't you comment on the CCTV footage? You might get away with it everywhere else, AROOJ SHAH, but here, these councillors aren't having it. And this is another point I have, Sheila. I'm not happy at all. If we give them the excuse to clear out the public gallery, which is what they want to do, then it allows them to do this in private, in secret. That's on us. We should never have given them the reason to clear out the public gallery.
That's not constitutionally correct. It's not ad hoc and it's not made up. It's that simple.
No. Has everyone got this amendment which was printed and circulated? Yes? No, sorry, the question is, have you got this printed amendment?
Yes, we have, Mr Mayor, but it omits the last bullet point of the motion.
So administration is saying...
Because that's how we want it.
So administration is saying that's how we want it, so we're voting on this. No, that's not. Well, that's what they're saying to me, to be honest. It's not for me to decide what they want. That's what they're saying.
Can we...
Yeah.
So is the amendment...
Right, I'm taking the vote on the amendment which is being circulated as...
Mr Mayor, seeing as it's an independent motion, is that amendment written correctly or not? Because it looked like a rewrite in the first place. Correct. So if they put an amendment in that is wrong, then that amendment should be thrown out.
So this amendment...
How is it amendment?
I don't know what...
How is it, Mr Mayor? Mr Mayor...
Sorry, just 1 second, please. Amendment put in by administration. I don't care what they did right or wrong. You got this circulated version. No more discussion. I'm taking vote on this amendment.
So there you go. What the mayor there is doing is completely unconstitutional. He's saying, I don't care if it's right or wrong. You've heard that. You've heard him say that. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I'm taking a vote on it. I don't care if it's right or wrong. Is that what he's just said? Have I heard that right? I don't care if it's right or wrong. Just let me play it back.
You do expect higher standards from the members of this chamber, to be honest with you. You can't blame public if the councillors, respected councillors, speak. principle that should be followed.
Never ever.
All those in favour?
Sorry.
Told to us is then admitted and it's wrong. But there you go, an executive fiat.
No, it's not.
Told to us is then.
Everyone got this amendment which was printed and circulated? Yes? No, sorry, the question is, have you got this printed amendment?
Yes, we have, Mr. Mayor, but it omits the last bullet point of the motion.
So administration is saying,
because that's how we want it.
So administration is saying that's how we want it, so we're voting on this. No, that's not. Well, that's what they're saying to me, to be honest. It's not for me to decide what they want. That's what they're saying.
Can we?
Yeah.
So is the amendment...
Right, I'm taking the vote on the amendment which is being circulated as...
Mr Mayor, seeing as it's an independent motion, is that amendment written correctly or not? Does it look like a rewrite in the first place? Correct. So if they put an amendment in that is wrong, then that amendment should be thrown out.
So this amendment...
How is it amended?
I don't know what...
How is it? Mr Mayor? Mr Mayor?
Sorry, just 1 second, please.
Sorry, I want to hear this bit.
Amendment put in by administration. I don't care what they written right or wrong. You got the circulated version, no more discussion.
I don't care if it's right or wrong, it's been circulated, no more discussion. I heard correctly. He doesn't care if it's right or wrong. He doesn't care if the council's rules have been followed. He doesn't care if it's unconstitutional. Is that right? I'm hearing that correctly.
Vote on this amendment. Are you voting for this amendment? All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Hold on.
No, I'm not voting, I'm sorry. You're not telling me to hold on. I've just taken the vote. Are you voting on amendment, yes or no?
This is shocking.
As circulated. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Amendment carried.
One executive fiat. Correct.
Sorry, say again.
So one executive fiat.
What do you mean, sorry? Would you like to explain yourself? What is unconstitutional, please? Would you stand up and explain it, please? I'm asking you to please explain me your words or withdraw your words.
I'll defer to my
No. I'm speaking to you. Either you withdraw your words or explain me, please.
You know it's bad when everyone's against it. It's an executive fiat when the circulated page and then what's been told to us is then admitted and it's wrong. But there you go, an executive fiat.
No, it's not executive fiat. I'm being told that we...
No, this is an executive. So this is Louis Hamblett. I'm not a Lib Dem. I lived in Crompton. I would be voting for Louis Hamblett. He had the balls to say something. He had the balls to say something valid.
The board as amended. It's not my decision. And we need to be mindful of the language we use, please.
This is shocking. You can't run a council like this. It's not something else.
It's disgraceful.
We do expect higher standards from the members of this chamber, to be honest with you. You can't blame public if the councillors, respected councillors, speak like this.
Oh.
It's not all. There are noble principles that should be followed in this chamber at least.
Is it someone a councillor say you follow the principles, Dr. Chauhan? Yes, Dr. Chauhan, you follow the principles. You follow the Nolan principles. You just forced through a vote, Dr. Chauhan, that did not follow council procedure.
Mr. Mayor, it seems you need to go along. Yeah. So motion as amended. I'm asking, are you leaving the chamber?
I am, yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So there you go. A councillor finally walks out. A councillor, HAZEL Gloucester, Liberal Democrat for Shaw. HAZEL Gloucester, Liberal Democrat for Shaw, up for re-election in May, walks out. And I will actively support the re-election of Councillor HAZEL Gloucester for her courageous act of standing up and walking out of a council meeting where they've just rigged the vote, ignored their own policies and procedures, forced through a vote, we've not rigged the vote, forced through the vote, ignored their own council's policies and procedures on how motions can be amended. And what was the vote about? Whether or not parents, grandparents, those of us in the community could see the minutes of meetings where they discussed child sex exploitation. They want to keep secret from you, me and everyone else in this town who is gang raping our children, where this rape is taking place, and how the authorities are responding to it. That is the line they took out. They want to keep that secret. And Councillor HAZEL GLOSTER, courageous woman. I've never spoken to her. Never in my life met her. If anything, I've ridiculed her and mocked her a bit. When it came down to it, it wasn't Big Team Hurley who walked out. It was a Liberal Democrat in Shaw, HAZEL GLOSTER, and every one of us should be campaigning for the re-election of HAZEL GLOSTER. And the Mayor does say, that's great. That's great that a councillor is walking out because of what they've just experienced. And no doubt, poor HAZEL will get a standards complaint by AROOJ SHAH and some of her mates. HAZEL, you should have walked out and said you're going to nibble some samosas.
Motion as amended. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions?
What's the point of voting? What's the
motion carries? Motion as amended.
Sorry, I do apologise. So what we get is, we get the amendment that is intended and then the finished amendment. So two things are printed in the circulated amendment. One doesn't remove a bullet point and one it's not there. So I don't understand, when you say you voted for the amendment as printed, two different things are printed and I don't understand which we've got and which we voted for.
So can I offer an explanation?
Is it
Let me ask, there was an explanation when you did.
Here is the Chief Executive standing up. Did anyone hear the Mayor invite the Chief Executive to either speak or stand up? Did anyone hear Dr. Zahid Chohan, the Mayor of Oldham Council, it's his meeting, either invite Harry Caffrell to speak or stand up? Because that did not take place. What Harry Caffrell is now doing is outrageous. But why wouldn't he do this? He's just been hired on a 3-day-a-week contract on record wages. It's in his interest to protect this lot. This is an out-of-control council and I promise you justice. The first thing I will call for is a government investigation into Oldham Council, the running of this town, because I believe it's corrupt, it's criminal, and it's been infiltrated by those who will protect those who are responsible for either the grooming and gang rape of our children or the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our children. Only a government investigation led by a police force other than Greater Manchester Police will get to the heart of this. It needs to be the National Crime Agency. The National Crime Agency needs to come into Oldham. And I will advocate, and I am advocating for that. That's exactly what is happening and what should happen. This council is now not fit to convene and should now be taken over by a government investigation.
For all of you to understand. So what we had was an amendment that shows the workings out. An amendment showed all the workings out, the crisscrosses and the crosses, and then an amendment to read, to vote on, and debate and vote on. And there was a difference there. We asked very clearly, the amendment as read, as printed and circulated to everybody is what was intended and what you were asked to vote on. That was repeated a few times. So you've debated this and you've voted on this, and that is absolutely correct. Okay?
Point of order, we haven't debated.
You debated that amendment, and you voted on the amendment.
So, point of order, Mr. Mayor, it's been made clear by Constitutional Services that any amendments that are submitted have to be in a specific order and a way. The fact that this amendment was not presented correctly has resulted in confusion, not just from my group, not just from the independent group, not just from the other independent group. I'm not Mr. Councillor Shah, I'm not interrupting you. All the Liberal Democrats.
The Borough Solicitor has clarified the position.
Can we have some discipline? We're turning this chamber into a fish market. Anyone who wants to stand up, stand up. Maybe you don't need a chair and I can leave and you can carry on with the meeting. For God's sake, please have some discipline. We can take the turn and speak.
I think Harry Cathroll
no, I'm being very fair. I don't deserve this to
should be removed from his position. I think Dr. Chauhan should be removed from his position as mayor. I'm very clear. My position, based upon what I've just witnessed, is that Dr. Chauhan should be removed from his position as mayor. He should be suspended from his position as mayor as a consequence of what he's just overseen. And there should be standards complaints against AROOJ Shah, Shahid Mushtaq, and the chief executive should be suspended without pay, pending a full investigation for gross misconduct. And God knows what the borough solicitor is doing there. He's not said a word, because the reason he's not said a word, he knows that we're right. The reason he's not said a word, he knows we're right. Isn't that right, Paul Entwistle?
We voted on this motion, voted on this amendment. Conservative, secondly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to get into any more argument. I just want to say that I'm disappointed because this is an independent motion that was put forward. It's for the right reasons, and I'm quite sure, with all due respect to you, Mr. Mayor, if this thing by the Labour administration, this mistake, was done by a smaller party, we'd have had it thrown out. And that's where we feel now. That because we're a smaller party, this has been allowed to go right above our heads, and it's wrong. That's how I feel, with all respect to your
Mr. Mayor, point of order, please. Just please, 1 second. So the point of order is this. If there is an alleged confusion in the room, what we've said to make matters really simple is the print that you have in front of you, amended, is what we've just discussed.
But you've not followed the process to put him forward what that is. It's wrong. You can't amend something, AROOJ Shah, where something isn't on it from the original motion. That has to be in your amendment with a red line through it. It's not there with a red line through it. The people in this town aren't fake. We got rid of you in South Chadderton because of your mobster affiliations and your role in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children in our town. And I don't know.
That's what we're voting on. That is really simple, and what I'm not going to allow is what has become a common theme from certain members from this chamber is to misrepresent what's been said. So for the sake of the mischief makers in the room, I will say again, the amendment that we have discussed is what we're voting on. It's right in front of you, it's in black and white, and if people can't accept what they've read and voted on, it's right in front of them, so it's there. So there's nothing that's there for confusion.
Can't get it right, there's something wrong.
We're voting on something that we've written. So
right, I think we have voted on this, and I'm not going to take any more speakers. Can I just explain? I don't care if smaller party or larger party. I tried to be as fair as I could. They said to me, it's as printed, we want to vote on that, and that's all it is, and it's been circulated. Anyway, move on to the next item.
No, we can also precedent. We can put an amendment.
Item 12, child sexual exploitation, elected member steering group annual report. I call on Cllr SAHID to move and Cllr MUSHTAQ to second the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an important update on the work of this vital cross-party steering group, and I want to start by thanking the steering group's current members for their attendance.
So what happens next is to do with the steering group itself, the CSE steering group. Now, I'm not going to play all of it, but I'll talk you through it. I'm not going to play all of it, I'll talk you through it. It's already 7:30, and so I'm meant to be at my sister's for tea. She's cooked, and it's the first time she's cooked something since my mother passed, so I promised her, and she's already messaging me, asking me where I am. I didn't think I'd still be here at 7:30. The cross-party steering group of CSC, essentially the parties get to nominate someone that goes on it. So Lucia's on it, so on, you know, Dave Arnott's on it. What the Labour Party motion is to tell the other opposition parties who exactly can be on it. So I now, first of all, they've kept the minutes of the meeting hidden from the public and wider group of councillors. And secondly, what they're doing is directing who can sit on it, who the leaders of the opposition parties, which they can control or influence, and the designated children's safeguarding representative. Not the most suitable person that the parties decide, but AROOJ SHAH and her team are now dictating who can come to those meetings. It's scandalous. It is scandalous.
That they give to the issues raised and discussed at those meetings, and for the input into what is one of the most important areas of work that the
cases, identify many failings and plenty of room for improvement, and it's our responsibility.
Sorry, I just want to play what she speaks well here, actually. Give her a due, Helen. I wanted to play this.
I think if we are to ensure this issue remains a shared priority, we must give it the attention and the input it deserves from across all of our political groups. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mushtaq to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did make reference to this item in the last item, so I'll just second. Thank you.
Any member wishes to speak?
Hi. Very disappointed that the amendment I made to the last motion wasn't carried, because I think it's so important that we learn the mistakes that we've made in the past and make sure that we are communicating what we are doing.
But I think we've figured it out, so when it does drop, I've just got to reset something at my end. It takes a couple of minutes and we should be back up, so I'm hoping we're back up. If someone can just message me to say I am back up, and we'll carry on. It's astonishing, isn't it? It genuinely is astonishing what's going on. So this is Helen Bishop standing up and basically saying, why are we having an annual report? And you're hiding the minutes. And, you know, Neeson and Ridgway even talked about the, you know, how bad the failings were. Remember, they wanted to put me in prison for exposing all of this.
That we respond appropriately. Additionally, it's vital that we learn the lessons of the past, improve communications on the issue, and seek to act with complete transparency so that all members and the wider public are kept updated and informed about future plans and any progress made via the publication of quarterly reports and minutes, with the obvious removal of any sensitive or confidential details. So I am really struggling to understand why that was, and I think it was a big error to remove that from the motion.
I agree with Helen Bishop. It was a big error to remove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be as brief as I can. Just for clarification on the membership of the group, the way it reads, and I may be being a bit thick here, it won't be the first time, that the membership will be expanded to include representation from the independent groups, for want of a generic term, without...
Don't put it all together, Dave.
No, I mean without causing an offence to anybody. But does it change the membership from all groups, that the people who sit on it will now be the leader of the group plus that group's member with responsibility for children, young people? Is that the case?
Do you want me to come back now? Or are you going to take more?
I'll take more questions.
Yeah.
So that is indeed the case. That is exactly what it was. They've rigged it. They've decided who can sit on it and who can look at the stuff. And Dave Arnott clearly isn't happy. But AROOJ SHAH clearly gets her way.
And now, press report. Do you want to take a vote on those reports, or do you want to send everything? Okay. The first one reviews political balance and committee.
So I'm just rewinding it because I want to.
Thank you, Madam, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Shah, do you want to have a final response?
Yeah, I'm a bit baffled, so I'm going to try to explain again
She's
and go through.
She's baffled. We're all stupid. She's smart. She's baffled. So I'm looking for Mark Ince. He said something at some point in this. The one time he says anything. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment.
Children, young people. Is that the case?
Let's play it. Let's play it.
Do you want me to come back now? Or are you going to take more?
I'll take a few more questions.
Yeah.
Take a few more observations. And then
because at the moment, if we look at the Conservatives, the attendance is made up of the leader of the group and myself, or with substitutes as appropriate. Are you saying that in future, the membership from the Conservatives would have to be the leader of the group plus the person with responsibility for children and young people? Is that the proposed change?
I'll ask Councillor Shah to respond to that.
So in regards to Councillor Arnott's question, yes, so that's the plan. So where they have a member with those responsibilities, yes, and then obviously the leader. And we are asking for that change to make sure that the right people are available to input, and that's one of the things that I certainly noticed this time.
Councillor Hamdani?
Yeah, with regards to that change of membership, partway through an administrative year, you're deciding who the right people are on behalf of other groups. And
right,
that does not seem to be a fair idea. I've put in I am the representative on the group as well as the leader, and I think I have a good amount of knowledge of this area, and that I can contribute to it, and that I should...
Okay, I've just paused it there. You will see in the back, the public were excluded from this meeting, yes? Once they ended the meeting, the public were excluded from this meeting. That's correct, isn't it? The public were excluded from this meeting once the meeting had been suspended. In the public gallery was Meg Birchall. What is Meg Birchall doing sat at the back? What is Meg Birchall doing sat at the back? Why is Meg Birchall in that meeting? And you're right, Gary, that's what I think. And it's what Sam Hamdani thinks. It's what the others are starting to. Look at the look of alarm on his face. Halfway through a year, they're changing the rules of who can sit on the CSE steering group. After voting to hide from the members of the public the minutes of the CSE steering group.
Be able to be that member if our group deems it to be the correct person. And I think changing the terms of reference of the group partway through the administrative year for no obvious benefit does not seem to be the right approach. I also noticed that the terms of reference still continue on 4 meetings a year. We've not been able to get through the business of the meetings in time, I think, once. We have regularly struggled to get through the business of the meeting in the time that we have. So I would also like to reflect on the fact that we originally proposed more meetings of the group. This continues on the same basis. I think we would get more out of the group if it was meeting on a more regular basis, and I would like the terms to reflect that.
Councillor Hinds, I will bring you back, Councillor Hinds.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to go on record that the independent group do not agree with this flawed steering group and should be supplemented with a full public inquiry into historic sex abuse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just grandstanding nonsense by Markins. Absolute grandstanding nonsense. Supplemented by a full independent. Absolute grandstanding nonsense. What have you done? They've just voted to cover it up and prevent the minutes earlier on in the motion. Where was Big Team? Where was Big Team? Big Team Hurley, Hints, where were you? Nowhere. Absolutely sat there. What were you doing? Sucking your thumbs? Licking the post-it notes or something. What were you doing? Big Team boys? An absolute joke. John Hughes will have probably texted him, won't he? John Hughes would have probably texted him. Quick, we've got to say something that Raja Mir's going to get us. Absolute joke. The only person in that room, not the only person, the person in that room I've got the most respect for has left the room. Her name is HAZEL GLOSTER. She will be fighting. The person in that room I've got the most respect for is HAZEL GLOSTER, the Lib Dem councillor for Shaw. She will be fighting against the dodgy politics and politicians that are Big Team Hurley and Hints. Whoever the candidate from the Shaw Independents, the fake political party that isn't a party, presenting itself as a party with a logo and everything else, we will be campaigning against her in support of HAZEL GLOSTER for no other reason than she had the courage and conviction to stand up and leave that room at the time she did. And furthermore, it's been brought to my attention that the Shaw and Cromptons have a YouTube channel where Markins, instead of reading the minutes of the meetings, Markins has been given an interview in his conservatory with lots of windows and a big garden out the back. The bloke who interviewed him is a trolley pusher from the Asda in Shaw. The bloke who interviewed him is the trolley pusher from the Asda in Shaw. That's right, isn't it, Mark? Big Team. Absolute joke. Absolute joke. HAZEL GLOSTER's up in Shaw. Gary, I'm sure Big Team will put up one of the, the same, is it one of the Naveses? I'm supporting HAZEL GLOSTER. Not because I'm a Lib Dem, not because I'm against Big Team. I'm supporting HAZEL GLOSTER because of what she did in that meeting. She stood up for the town. There was one last thing in this council meeting, and I won't play it. They all voted it through before the meeting ended. And that last thing we should take as a win. From now on, they voted this through, put it through, slipped it in right at the end on purpose. From now on, any councillor who's aware of CSE or suspects CSE has a mandatory duty to report it. That constitutional rule change in the council has taken place as a direct consequence of what we did in exposing Rod Blythe, the convicted child sex offender, who the council and the politicians and the police and the press involved at the time were complicit in hiding. And to this day, this council continues to hide and refuses to launch any inquiry as to where Rod Blythe had access to children in this town and whether or not he abused any children in this town. He had access to children in this town in his capacity as a senior Liberal Democrat politician, 22 years. They hid his conviction from us, and they've now been forced to change their own rules to say any councillor who's aware has got to report it. That has only come about as a direct consequence of what we've done, what we've exposed, and how we've risked our lives. My name is Raja Mir. This is the last of the live Recusant 9 transmissions. I am going behind a member-only, subscriber-only paywall. Unfortunately, I cannot continue to do the work I do the way I do it. No offence to any of you, many of you do support me, and without your support, it would not be possible for me to do what I do. 500 views yesterday, 200 views today, and I think there was 2 people who've supported me in terms of buying a coffee. I know there was a few super chats on here, but all of that money goes towards our summer, our gatherings and stuff. So I think I had 2 people buy me a coffee over the last 2 days, 5 hours, 6 hours, plus everything else I put into it. It's just not possible. It's just not sustainable. And it's why I was hesitant earlier on to say what we could do and would do as a consequence of what Shahid Mushtaq has said, because I can't afford to lead this work this way anymore. So my sincere apologies, and thank you, Gary Tarbuck, for the super chat right at the end. Thank you very, very much. It is not possible for me to carry on as is. What my work looks like in January will be determined by a number of factors, but we will be back in January. We'll continue to work in January, but these free-to-air transmissions and the work on Facebook and all of that is now at an end. I don't get paid tens of thousands like these councillors do. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Very, very Merry Christmas to all of you. I will put a pre-recorded awards ceremony up over Christmas and New Year. Season's greetings. Take care. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.